Welcome to Solutions with Courtney Anderson. I am Courtney Anderson. As always, you can go to CourtneyAnderson.com for more information or share any feedback, show suggestion topics, or anything else. So today we have a show that is part of our Help! Situation Spotlight series. And of course, this is a series where community members people ask me questions, reach out with concerns or issues, and so literally they're asking for help, and our show's all about solutions, and we're providing solutions. So specifically, our topic today is, he hasn't called. What does it mean? He hasn't called. What does it mean? So, this topic is one that has broad applicability. And typically when we look at this topic and we're looking at our professional lives, we're asking, I haven't heard from someone. I haven't heard from, quote, him. And it might be that I haven't heard from someone that I've interviewed with for a job. I haven't heard from someone that I've waiting to hear about a promotion or a job opportunity or assignment. So the idea is we're waiting on the call. We're waiting on the call. What does it mean? When I share that it has broad applicability, though, I often have this topic brought up when I'm doing sort of our interpersonal programs, conferences, where we're dealing with sort of our personal aspects of our lives, and people often will bring it up in the concept of waiting to hear from someone about a potential, possible, maybe romantic opportunity. So someone's waiting to hear back. Are we going to go on a second date, or is the person going to ask me out on the first date, or something of that nature? And so initially when we were looking at putting the show together, I was thinking, well, of course, these are totally different, separate, discrete areas. So there'll be, we can certainly do the program about waiting to hear about, the job, what does it mean, what's happening, and then we can do something else in a different show about waiting to hear from some potential personal life situation. Do they want to date me? What's happening? And I use the pronoun he only at the very end of the revision process for the program. Initially, of course, it was, they haven't called. What does it mean? But I have had, again, so many community members share with me anxiety, concern, fear, apprehension, and also that these emotional states have resulted in choices and action and behavior that has provided very negative outcomes. So, for example, someone says to me, "Oh goodness, they haven't called, he hasn't called, and I did the interview, and I'm waiting to see, am I going to get the job? Do they want me? What does it mean? Was I not good enough? Were they too intimidated by me? Do they think I'm overqualified, underqualified? Did I dress too conservatively, not conservatively enough? Did they think that my grooming was appropriate, not appropriate? What does it mean? What does it mean?" And then the person will say, "So I didn't know what it meant, and I couldn't wait any longer. I just couldn't wait any longer. So I went ahead and I sent some follow-up. I sent some follow-up information, and I wrote a personal handwritten letter, and I sent several emails. And then I went to their office just personally, just to let them know that, I really want this. Like, I think I'm the best, a fit for this, and I really wanted it." Okay. Strangely, at least on the surface, initially it seems strange, there are extremely similar patterns that many people engage in their personal lives, where the person has a very similar narrative, and they'll say, "My goodness, I'm waiting, I haven't heard from them, and I don't know what it meant. I don't know if I dressed too conservatively or not conservatively enough. I don't know if they thought I was, sort of, overqualified. I was intimidating, right? And maybe they think I don't need anybody, or maybe they think I'm too needy, or maybe it was, what I said. Maybe I said the wrong thing. So then I went ahead and I just followed up, right? Because I want them to know that I really want this. Like, I think I'm the perfect, one, right? And so I just, I sent some follow-up emails or a text message and, pictures of myself. I also, just went, to their house or their job to let them know, just let them know, like, I really want this. Okay. And so because of these somewhat similar behaviors in some instances in our personal and professional lives with this sort of core issue, right, where they haven't called, he hasn't called, and of course she hasn't called. The gender's irrelevant, but they haven't called, right? He hasn't called, she hasn't called, they haven't called. I'm waiting, and I can't stand it any longer. So I first start sort of negatively recasting my behavior. Was it what I wore? Is it what I said? Is it how I laughed? Is it what did I do, quote, wrong? And then, unfortunately, in some instances, we move from that sort of destructive pattern of this sort of negative reassessment of what happened on our part to thinking and then acting on the idea that I need to let them know, right? I need to let her know, him know, them. I need to let them know that I really want this, right? I want the job. I want the promotion. I want the opportunity. I want the transfer. Or I want to spend time with them. I want to get to know them better. I really like them. I want to, date them. I want to, be in a relationship with them. And again, so much of what I've done in so many corporate education and speaking events over, a decade and a half has been bringing these analogies from our different parts of our life into the other part of our life to remind us that the behavior isn't that confusing. So often I'll talk about leadership and I talk about, organizational management, and I'll give examples about managing your personal life, right? How parents will set up behavior reward patterns for their children. And one of the reasons I do that is because it seems easier for people sometimes to grasp, oh, yeah, that would be a horrible idea as a parent, if I went out and was inconsistent and treated, one child differently than the other children, and rewarded one child differently than the other children, right? It would create resentment and it would do a lot of emotional damage and things of this nature. People can see it often easier outside of work than they can inside the work environment, which is why I do so many of these analogies. And this is a perfect example of the same type of pattern. This idea that we're waiting to hear from them, right? Or generically, I use he in the title, I'll just use it. But again, it's not meant to be any particular, framework or analysis of the situation. But you're waiting for them, whoever they are, and you really want them, right, to call, and they haven't called. Why? What does it mean? Okay. Let's start at the beginning. There are a multitude of programs that I am delighted to be part of, where I ask and address this basic question of why do people do what they do? Why do people do what they do? Whether they haven't called, or they did call, or they called too much, or they never called, or they were late, or they were early, or they called me a bad name, or they gave me a compliment. Why do people do what they do? Whatever it is, whatever the behavior is. And typically my big picture framework responses start with the idea that they do what they do because A, or one, they want to, and two, or B, they're allowed to. So why do they do what they do? They want to and they're allowed to. So why isn't he called? Because he wants to and he's allowed to. What does that mean? He wants to not call. Thus he has not. He's allowed to not call, meaning that there's not any sort of mandated consequence or requirement, so he doesn't want to call, and he has not called. And in this scenario, and in all of the programs that we do, trying to work on helping ensure that you and I are surpassing our goals, when we start to break down this sort of two-part process, why people do what they do, first part they want to, second part they are allowed to, I so often talk about focusing on what they're allowed to do, because we can't control what somebody wants, to the best of my knowledge. We think we can influence it a lot more than we probably can, and in some instances, we certainly have options, right? Marketing and things we're going to try to influence what people think they want. Yet, individuals are going to want what they want for a multitude of reasons. And so I so often encourage us to sort of move away from that part of the framework onto the second part, which is what people are allowed to. And we talk about organizations, whether it's a business or a family. I spend all this time on leadership talking about what you allow people to do. And that's what consequence is about. That's what organization is about. You're teaching people self-discipline, right? So maybe somebody doesn't want to come to work on time. Maybe they don't want to get up in a family on time to go to school, but you set it up where they have consequence, or they learn over time that they're going to not be allowed to engage in the behavior when it's contrary to what the requirements or expectations are, right? That only works, though, if you have the framework where you have some ability to be part of consequence. If you're in a situation where you have no ability to be part of a consequence, then it becomes a very different analysis, and that's where we are right now. Okay, so let's start with the first part. Let's start with the personal life part, right? Let's do that part of the analogy, right? We're going to use the traditional stereotypical pronouns and sort of some very traditional stereotypical archetypes. All right, so somebody really likes somebody, right? So there they are. I really like them. I like them. Okay, so and I want to go out with them and spend time with them. All right, so you provided them the way to contact you. So let's say we're traditional, so we're older, so we're talking about they could call, right? I didn't say as a text messaged me or whatever the social media, but let's just say basically hasn't contacted me. I haven't heard from him, and when that happens, then you have to sit down and think about your part of what you're doing, right? Why do people do what they do? Because they want to, they're allowed to. Well, then why are you doing what you want? You want the person to call you, contact you, text you, whatever, right? You want that. Okay, awesome. Again, we already have established that to the best of our understanding, that's the sort of domain of the individual, what they want. So if you want the person to contact you, then that's great. That's in your domain. It's in your head. It's in your idea. Some people will tell me it's in my heart. Okay, I got it. You want that, and that's great. It's wonderful to be aware of what you want, because that's part of moving toward action. But let's look at the second part of this. Me wanting something or wanting someone to do something is, again, normal, healthy, valid, just part of life. Taking my individual desire to want something and having the ability to allow, in other words, right, if I have the ability to implement consequence and deal with the behavior from a sort of a conditioning perspective, then that'll be one type of analysis. But if I don't have the ability to stop allowing someone, right, or to do something, then it takes away my ability to impact the scenario. So let's say I'm sitting in my life and I'm thinking, oh, I really like them. I want him to call. I really want him to call and spend time with me and tell me he wants to, get to know me better. Okay, great. That's awesome. I want that. What ability do I have to control the other part of this equation? What ability do I have to control the other person? Now, I'm assuming, of course, that I don't have some sort of authority over this object of my affection. So I'm assuming that it's not a situation where it also coincidentally, I'm the supervisor of this person at work, and they're my team member subordinate. I'm the one that would approve their promotions or pay raises and their employee evaluations, and then coincidentally I also feel like that's the object of my affection, because that would, of course, be fraught with all kind of peril. In many parts of the world, it would be illegal or potentially illegal, because I'm taking the authority I do have, right? I'm at their job, and I'm the one that controls how much money they make or if they keep a job at all. So if I use my desire for their personal time and affection and then think, well, won't allow them not to call me, right? I'm their boss. That's going to potentially create a sexual harassment type of scenario, which is why many organizations around the world prohibit someone from pursuing or engaging in any type of personal, romantic, or intimate relationship with someone that you have control over at work, because it does put in that framework where now it's like, well, what do you mean you didn't call me back? I'm your boss. Even though you don't have to say it, they're probably going to call you back, because not necessarily because they feel the same way you do emotionally and they think that you're the one for them and that you'll spend the life together of long walks and happy times romantically, but look, you're their boss. And so that's why, part of why many of those policies and laws exist around the world, is to prevent this situation where you're unfairly exploiting your power position in the professional world to try to use it to obtain personal behaviors and rewards, and that's just exploitive. And again, many parts of the world, it's unfair and or illegal. So we're assuming that's not happening because that's not who we are. So this is someone you don't have any authority over, right? I'm not even going to touch the situations where it's not your boss, but it's, oh my goodness, these horrible things in society and the media read about where, it's somebody's a school teacher and it's their student, especially when it's a minor. It's even more, oh goodness, it's blatantly illegal. And again, even when they're adult students, it's strongly advised, not a good idea for all the same reasons I just talked about. Anything where you actually have authority over the person in any type of setting, whether it's a social setting or your job or their education or any type of thing, is not the place for you to go ahead and think, well, wonderful, now I do have the ability to control what they're allowed to do. And I'll just make it really clear that they're going to call or text or, ask me out or spend time with me or tell me how pretty I am, because if they don't, there's going to be consequences, right? At their job or at school or in their social group or whatever. That's wrong. It's wrong. My argument, it's unethical, because you're not. If your real issue is that you have feelings of affection and would like to, date or be romantic with or spend intimate time with someone, then you need to deal with someone equally on that issue, and they need to have the authority and the opportunity to say no and make decisions based on their same calculation of their romantic feelings or desire to spend intimate time with someone. And so when you conflate these issues and you take advantage of power to obtain these things, again, in many instances it's illegal, in some instances it's extremely illegal. What I mean by that, extremely, well, it's if someone, especially if they're, really someone who's a subordinate, or there's a huge differential of power, sometimes they're even somebody who's not even legally an adult or of consent. So again, people need to be able to make their own decisions in these areas, just like you should be able to decide who you would like to be spending time with and involved with romantically in a healthy way. And if you say no, it means no, then that other person needs to have the same ability to be treated equally. Just my own ethical assertion. If the person has not contacted you, if he hasn't called, what does it mean? It means he doesn't want to call you. And, of course, that he's allowed not to call you. That's what it means. Now, it may be that he doesn't want to call you because he's sick. He may be sick and he's been sick and he's not even been healthy enough to pick up the phone, right? It could be that he didn't want to call you because, something bad happened, and he had a horrible thing happen at work and he's been so upset and stressed out and unhappy and scared, he's not called anybody. So it doesn't necessarily mean that it's related to you, the reason why he doesn't want to call you. But there is, and I am asserting this, and I want this to be the one thing that's heard in this entire episode. He does not want to call you. He does not want to call you. To make it really clear, she does not want to call you. They do not want to call you. That is why they have not called you. That is what it means. They do not want to call. That is why they have not called. That is what it means. Now again, why? Why they don't want to call you, that we don't know. Again, it could be that they're unable. Maybe they're unconscious and in the hospital. It could be that they are so distracted with something horrible. Their grandmother is ill and they're unable to do anything right now. They're dealing with that and they've left town. We don't know that right now, but we do know that they don't want to call, as they have not called, which means do not at all, spend time and resources trying to criticize yourself and find fault with what you've said or what you've done. That is a total waste of resources, completely. If you are working on, as I share in so many programs, being your own number one fan and treating yourself with kindness, then you're not going to sit and deconstruct what happened in the past and start beating up on yourself and saying, I shouldn't have said that, I shouldn't have worn that, I shouldn't have laughed like that, whatever. That's unhealthy and it's a total waste of time. You don't know what the cause is why the person doesn't want to call you. All you know is that they don't. Wait and see. What does that mean? Wait means don't sit around wasting time and resources on something where you don't know what the underlying cause is. And see means see what? See what they do. It may be that they don't ever call. What does that mean? It means they never wanted to call. I'm answering the question. Now, again, it may be that they went to go see their sick grandmother, and then when they got to see where she was and realized that they couldn't leave her there in that town, and they just packed up their stuff and moved so they could be with her all the time. Okay, I don't know. It may be that, they thought about it and they really did not like, what you wore, and they found someone else that they liked, and then they went and spent time with them. I don't know. You don't know. And you don't have any right, and no one has an obligation or responsibility to, quote, tell you. And that's the other part of this where people just become obsessed with, well, why do I want to know? I want to know what happened. I want to know what really happened. No, you don't. You really don't. Because whatever it was, whether it was a sick grandmother or the person was in the hospital or they found somebody else they liked better, how are you going to change that or impact it? You're not. They already know you. They either talked to you or had some interaction with you because you gave them the way to call you, right? That's why we were talking about the question. So if they change their mind and they do want to contact you, you know what they'll do? They'll call you. Problem solved. That's wait and see. Do not ever, quote, escalate. Oh, I just want to follow up. I'm going to send them a letter, an email, a text, a picture, a selfie. I'll go on their Facebook wall. I'll send them. I'll go tweet about it. I'll go to their job. I'll go to their house. People do this stuff. It is so inappropriate, and in some instances, people repeat the behavior. It actually can become illegal. I've handled cases as a lawyer where the person becomes, and it's sometimes it's just such a pejorative now, but legally they become someone who's engaging in the criminal acts of stalking. Where the line is, it depends on the person. I've had cases as a lawyer where I've talked to people and they've written, 300 letters in 2 days to somebody, and in their mind it's like, what? I was just following up. No, that's so excessive. And it's because they're completely obsessed and thinking about themselves. They project issues and emotions and challenges onto these other people that are unrealistic. They begin to, again, none of what their behavior is doing is respectful. None of it is rational. Now, of course, when you're emotional, people say, well, I'm emotional. Of course I'm not rational. I'm emotional. Understood. My suggestion, again, though, is when you are responsible for yourself, you're responsible for your actions. When we're looking, again, outside of the professional setting, why didn't they call? They don't want to. Wait and see. Wait means don't spend any time in your mind with conjecture, with all these fears, with projecting what you think it means. It means wait and see. Also, when you are in your professional life and they haven't called, and you're doing the same exact thing we just talked about. Oh my goodness, well, what does it mean? I really want that. I'm going to send the follow-ups, and I'm going to send a gift, and I'm going to let them know, and maybe I'll go back by the office and just check in. And stop. Why haven't they called you for the promotion, for the job, for the potential internship? Because they don't want to. It may be that they haven't even finished all their other, interviews with other applicants. It may be that the funding process has been, held up for a little bit. It may be that immediately when you were in the room, they felt like you did not have the qualifications that they wanted. You don't know. We don't know. It's the same thing as the other situation. We don't know. And my argument is you cannot do anything about this. Now, is it polite in many instances to send a thank you note to people after, an interview or a professional opportunity? Yes, one little thank you note. Not a whole bunch of notes, not following up to different people in the department, not going to other contacts you have and saying, I was just still wondering if, had you heard from anybody, because I had the interview and I felt really good about it and I just thought it was going to be great and, I was excited and I just want to follow up, not sending, several gift baskets. You don't go back by the office. You must stop. Don't go to the networking event and just hope you run into them and then, casually, again, hey, I just wanted to follow up again. Again, we start to cross that same line where we're potentially having criminally stalking behavior. So I hope you see that there are, and I'm making the argument, analogies between this personal and this professional behavior. Why haven't they called? They don't want to. I don't know why. Again, it may be that they're still interviewing people. It may be that immediately when they looked at your qualifications and saw that you were lacking a specific skills, that they immediately thought you weren't qualified. It may be that they feel that your skills are far in excess of the position and that you're, quote, overqualified. It may be a situation where they just have decided they're not going to hire anyone right now. I don't know. I don't know what the reason is, and you don't know either, but my argument is that you must cease this behavior. It's not helpful, and it's not going to get you what you want. What you desire is the person, the company, the organization, the dating romantic potential partner who wants to call you. And that may sound overly simplistic. It may sound like, really? But yes. How do you know if they want to call you? How do you know? I get that question a lot. Well, how do I know? How am I supposed to know? How am I supposed to know? How do you know they call? Seriously. And I'm going to go a little bit out beyond that and say, not that they call you when you call them to be maybe polite, and many people are like that, especially in professional situations, and many people personally. Look, you called, I'll call you back because it's rude not to. But they don't initiate the call. And that is telling you that they do not want to. They don't want to do what? They do not want to contact you because they did not. Don't go anywhere beyond that. Don't go beyond that and say, oh, it's because I'm a horrible person. I'm never going to get the great job. My education was a waste. All my experience is nothing. The world is horrible. I'm unattractive. I talk too much. I don't talk enough. I'm too tall. I'm too short. I'm too large. I'm too small. I'm too young. I'm too old. Like all of this. Stop. Silly. Why am I saying it's silly? It's silly because it is imperative. It is imperative that we, again, go back to our foundational principles of all the programs. You are you. You have to make peace with yourself. We've done programs, right? When you're at war with yourself and you fight against yourself, you'll lose. Why do this? It's a complete investment of time that's going to yield negative outcomes. You are you. If you feel like you want to be more skilled, if you feel like you'd like to improve some of your communication skills, if you feel like you want to improve your wardrobe, if you feel like you want to be healthier, then those are wonderful potential things for you to invest your time in a healthy way. But it's not going to magically guarantee anything. You are you. And there's a world out there of opportunity. And people who become so calcified in their self-criticism and their anger, they just are they have tunnel vision. and they just become obsessed. Well, I want to work in this company. I want to have that job. If that works out, great. If it doesn't and they don't call, then you need to start to think about other alternatives. It's the same thing socially. If the person feels the way you felt and has the ability to, they contact you. If they have not, that means they don't want to. You're not going to make them change. If they change on their own, they'll contact you. And then you'll decide, is that the kind of person you want to spend time with? Is that the kind of company you want to work for? Somebody that doesn't follow up for, 6 months. That's your call. I would think long and hard about it, and we have programs to help you make these decisions, but I want you to invest in you. I really do. Because you spend so much time with yourself. And to a large extent, there's a lot of things that you can improve, enhance, modify, but to a large extent, you are you. You need to make peace with you, and you need to become a supporter, ideally at some point, of yourself, and start to actually believe you're valuable. And then for the right situation, for the right person in the right setting, you're extraordinary. And you have to believe that. And then you're going to go out and you're going to work on and being as content with yourself as possible, confident, and sharing exactly the thing that makes you proud of yourself with other people. And when you find the organization that sees all of those things and that it's a benefit and that it's the right fit, meaning you would want to be there and they would want to have you there, then that's going to work out and it's going to be great. And it's the same thing with these personal relationships. You're going to find that's that person, and they're going to see all those things you see in yourself that make you feel good about yourself, that make you proud of yourself, that make you care about yourself and be kind to yourself. They're going to see all the same things, and they're going to get as joyful and emotional and invested and committed and dedicated to you as you feel about yourself. And then again, you want to be with them and they want to be with you, and then you go and it works. But you have both to have to feel that. And just like you have the right to say no to people and say no to jobs and that's not right for you, and we talk so much about that, right? You're not going to be miserable and unhappy. They have the right too. So it starts with you. Spend a lot of time with yourself working on feeling and getting to the point where you can identify why you're proud of yourself and keep working on that. And then get out in the world and be around other people who feel good about themselves, whose organizations are the caliber of what you provide professionally. And then when you sort of water meets its own level, then you're going to have that sort of magical professional experience and magical personal experience. And it'll be awesome. It is awesome. And you deserve it, and absolutely. But don't ever get into this loop where they didn't call and you start degrading yourself in your mind with criticism, and then you start engaging in behavior that's degrading and at some point could potentially be, criminal stalking. You're not that person. You're not at all that person. It's a cliche, but honestly, it was their loss. And then you're already moved on. Thank you so much for joining me. As always, you can come to CourtneyAnderson.com for your feedback and more information. And always remember, he hasn't called. What does it mean? He doesn't want to call. But that is absolutely positively okay, because now you have the answer and you can move on to your next wonderful and awesome opportunity. Thank you.